Thousands of Washingtonians are packing their bags and heading east for North Idaho. Why is that? We're going to dive into it today. Stick around. Lots of great info. Hey, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the notifications bell so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. Our team, there's 3 of us right here. We get calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you trying to learn more about North Idaho and Idaho in general and a little bit of Eastern Washington. So if you guys are thinking about making that move right now or 12 months from now or 24 months from now, give us a call, text, or email. Let's get that conversation started.
Let's discuss taxation between Washington and Idaho, right? Because one of the things that commonly comes up, people are like, I don't want to move to Idaho because it has a state income tax.
Boom, I hear that all the time.
Yep. So we've talked about that in previous episodes where we've kind of combined a violent crime rate and taxes. I know we're going to get a crime rate later because that's the only reason I'm here. Let's be real. But
you're right.
When we go to individual taxation per person per capita by state, even with the state income tax, Idaho ranks 11th. The highest burden under their taxation was actually for unemployment insurance because we have a relatively low population. So it kind of spans out. There's just not as many people to burden that. When it came to everything else, they were in top 10, top 15. So by and large, your individual taxation, when you go across all 50 states, Idaho ranks 11th. Where do you think Washington ranks?
Ooh, well, no income tax. They must be high, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you this. When people say no income tax, there's a benefit to that depending on whether or not the retirement thing, I don't buy off on that.
Right.
You have a fixed income. Paying no income tax does not save you. If you're making a ton of money, and you're not retired, then the income tax thing you can save a lot on. But I think Washington, they're going to get your money one way or another. We know that.
They hide it.
So I think it's a lot higher.
Yes. So they rank, by the IRS website, they rank 45th out of 50, one being the best. They rank 45th out of 50, and that's what they're reporting because there's all sorts of other creative taxation when you look into like alcohol, tobacco. Now they're going to have, is it a transportation tax in Washington or Oregon? I'm pretty sure they're both looking at it like a mileage tax. And then you've got on top of that real estate tax. We learned that because when Scott came to the team, you realize that the state imposes another taxation when you sell your house that goes beyond what you're already paying.
Well, isn't it 1%? It was high.
Yeah, it was something.
I think it was 1%. What was the name of that tax?
I don't know.
The excise.
Excise tax.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
The Washington real estate excise tax. So when you get into the creative ways in which they tax, I have an awesome couple who just went on, or a family. It's a generational family. They're moving over here now. They're under contract now, and we were discussing taxation on property from over there. Say their house over there is roughly half the cost of the house that they're purchasing over here, maybe 60% of it. But their taxes over there on that house were over $9,000 a year.
Oh, God.
Then we compared it to the property here that's nearly double in value, and it's $2,400 with the homeowner's exemption.
That's a chunk of dough.
And the
right there.
homeowner's exemption, too, if people don't know, it's a fixed amount. It's $125,000. It's not like the bigger house you get a bigger homeowner's exemption.
Right.
So it's really, when you say homeowner's exemption, you're talking $300 a year.
Right.
That's really what it is.
Yep.
So it's not like it goes up as you buy a bigger house.
Which is a great point to make because a lot of people are coming over and they're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to buy a second home and then which one they can actually make their primary residence. That's something to evaluate each individual state and decide whether or not you get a bigger benefit from a homeowner's exemption in that state. Washington doesn't have a homeowner's exemption. Idaho also has a timber exemption. That's a different thing. So that included the timber.
A sales tax. Now, Washington's 6.5 plus local taxes. Is that accurate? That's what I'm thinking somewhere in there.
Yeah,
and Idaho is lower.
Idaho's 6%.
And it's this, whatever I got this from, combined rates, state and local averages about 6.03%. So still quite a bit lower. Yeah, we already talked about overall tax burden and competitiveness. So that's a big reason for a lot of people, especially if you're making a lot of money.
100%.
Good God dang.
And you see a lot of those people that want to be in Idaho that they want to take advantage of the income tax. They live in Liberty Lake, Otis Orchards, like they're just across the border, so they can still continue to enjoy Idaho, but they're going to, obviously the tax burden of that as well. So that's where you end up with all these people in Eastern Washington.
But you still get further into the creative taxation.
Sure.
People that live over there, where are they getting their gas? I know where you're getting your gas because I go to Maverick at State Line too.
Yeah.
Right? You come over there because Washington has put such a huge markup on and I know you get your cigarettes over here too, and then you go to the liquor store that's right there on State Line. So it's all creative taxation from the state. Try registering a vehicle.
I know.
I mean, that's a hidden tax that's not going to be included in your 45 out of 50
Yep.
ranking because they're going to say that's something else.
I registered my truck, $178 with a state park pass for 2 years.
Yeah.
$178.
Yeah, my wife's vehicle and my truck combined for 2 years is like $350.
That's awesome.
That's insane. If that were in California, and I know we're not talking about California, but Washington's probably similar, it'd be like $900 a year.
Oh, there's
Per vehicle.
Yeah.
yeah, there was somebody that posted one for a Tesla, and it was like $3,900 to register that thing.
Oh.
That's great. Oh yeah, out of
Well,
control.
now, the funny thing is, too, when you talk about taxation, let's get to that real quick, is that a lot of these states that have really pushed, like the low emissions and everything else, now they're coming up with ways to tax you on your electric vehicle because it's taxing the grid.
Because they can't get your money anymore for gas, so they're going to get you for mileage and traveling.
100%.
Now, I'm one of those, because we talked about this with violent crime rate. If my taxes on the road, like my registration's high, and then you're going to charge me for gas, but we have the best roads in the country, and my car's incurring less damage, maybe in my brain I could justify, all right, I'm paying a little bit extra here, but my car's going to last longer because my roads are so good. Washington roads are notoriously atrocious.
Yeah.
Spokane especially, like
Terrible
the potholes there.
downtown, yeah.
That's the frustrating part. So where's the money go?
Social programs.
Right. But if it's going towards that's the frustrating part. I think that's why a lot of people are leaving there and they don't see it getting any better with Ferguson after they just had the largest tax bill passed, $9 billion more. They were ranked 45 out of 50 before that bill.
Didn't that governor run on not raising taxes?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what you say to get elected.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that's what happens, right?
Yes.
So, all right. So taxes.
Yeah, foundational misrepresentation.
That's
of
a big
what you
reason. All right, number 2, politics and regulations. Shocker. Idaho is a very free state, and Washington, the communist state of Washington, is not. So that's a big driving factor for a lot of people to seek out that freedom, right? We're very libertarian over here, I would say. And we have a lot less regulations, a lot less laws and policies. And
Man, in some regards, it's that way, right? Like over there, they're going to turn a blind eye to open air pervasive drug use and shitting on sidewalks in front of businesses. They're going to turn a blind eye to those types of things. But then you lose individual person. There's nothing worse for somebody that lives somewhere that has purchased a home and then the state makes them realize that they don't own that home. That's a very miserable feeling. And what I mean by that is if you own property there and all of a sudden squatters come in and set up a camp and all of a sudden the state provides them standing or gives them standing and then you can't remove them even though it's your it's what a terrible feeling.
that would drive me insane.
Because property ownership is one of those fundamental things. When you buy a house, you're like, yeah, this is my plot of earth, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody wants.
Politics are probably the saddest thing. And we all know, we get calls from people all the time. And the one thing they want to jump on and say is, hey, we're not coming there to mess up with the plate. We got to get out of California. We got to get out. And then they cite the politics, right?
Right.
It's actually kind of sad that is why people are making a move, right? They're willing to leave beautiful places because of politics. And it's never a red or blue thing, right? It's not saying, oh, I can't stand Democrat. It's this far left vocal minority that is having such an impact that all these legislators are using to emotionally charge and get into office. And now they're literally destroying states politically. I mean, financially, taxation, everything else. But it's sad to have people call and say, hey, I don't feel free in my state.
Yeah.
That is crazy to me.
Especially when they've been there for generations, right? And you've got,
Yeah.
I mean, how sad is that to have, fifth generation Washingtonian when it was a great state to live in? Actually, not that long ago.
Yeah. They're eroding personal freedoms in the name of emotions of the loudest minority. And it sucks for people.
Yep.
I'm going to use the same group again, but he'd mentioned coming over here and saying, well, I got to be really careful when I come over because I don't want somebody to move in there and, squat in the property. I said, bro, I can't wait for you to move to Idaho. Dude, that ain't going to happen here. There's no squatters' rights here.
There was a civil rights movement back in the 60s, right, to protect the minority and give rights. And the heart behind it was very good. But it's been taken to a point. I mean, we should protect the minority. They should feel protected. But now it's become a point where now you're not only protected, but you can actually change the face of how things operate to your benefit and not to anybody else's. And along the way, you get to make all the rules.
Yeah.
In my house, we have 4 people. If we want to watch a movie and 3 of us vote for one and the other one throws a fit and wants to watch the other one, guess what? They can go to their room.
Yeah.
or they can jump in and watch what everybody else wants. But the majority is going to rule on that for sure.
It's a crazy time because now that not only do they get to direct that, but if you don't buy into it too, you are labeled as all the other words that we hear.
You can be criminalized.
Yes. It's somehow not aligning with it becomes hate speech.
100%.
Which is why, and I explained this to a guy I showed houses to today. He's a cop out of Oregon coming over here, and he loves Oregon. I mean, he's grown, it loves it geographically, but you can't live there after a while. I mean, it's just no longer, the values no longer align. And I agree with you that it is sad because I love some of those areas geographically.
Well, some people just can't afford it anymore.
Right.
Oh, there's that too, right? Regulation wise. So Idaho really wins on this regard quite a bit. And let's talk about building codes. There are counties up here with no building codes.
Bonner County.
Which is good and bad, right? It's a little bit insane.
Trust your agent, your inspector.
When you're going to buy a house.
Yeah, truly.
You get a good home inspection for sure. But if you're coming up here and you want to, build however you see fit,
look,
you can do it.
Regulations have taken the place of common sense. I want to touch on this right now because I just dealt with a property that we're selling, and they had an unpermitted, professionally built patio addition. Okay. The clients that came in, we argue that we don't want regulations, but then you have people that want to enforce regulations over common sense. I get it. It's unpermitted. I get it. You know what? Almost all of Bonner County is unpermitted. If you can look at something and have a contractor come out and say, hey, they poured a foundation, there's footings here. This is, this has been here for 12 years. It hasn't moved. Concrete's not cracking. This is the way that I would have done it, but it's not permitted. And then we turn around and say, we have a lot of this right now where people say, well, it's not permitted. So what you're saying is that you don't want the regulations, but you want to turn around and then enforce the regulations that you deem necessary.
To your benefit.
Common sense that's what I do love about Bonner County. You should be able to go look at a house and say, you know what, that's not built right. Talk to an inspector, talk to a general contractor, and then go, and somebody else come in and say, this is the way that I would have done it and this looks safe, and not have to turn to the government to say, can you please put a tag on this and tell me that I'm going to be safe because you said so? And by the way, here's $1,500.
I don't know, man.
I'm not interested in it.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. I absolutely trust the government. I wish they were more involved.
Can you just delete all of that, please? What is
I
this?
want to pay more taxes.
Yeah.
They do a really good job at the dissemination of our money. So I hope they take more.
It's a thing. But I mean, those regulations were put in place because people didn't use common sense with stuff and they tried to cheat people, right? So there's regulations for that reason. But at the same time, good Lord, find a medium where you can trust other people as opposed to turning to a government organization to say, please fix everything for me. Please make sure I'm safe.
Yeah, but that gets into something else funky, and I'm kind of glad because I've thought of this before just randomly when I'm driving because that's the way my brain works. But Idaho is less committed or entrenched in this idea that everything needs to be litigious, right? You go to some states and you can't drive anywhere without some stupid billboard that says, if you stubbed your toe, we're going to sue Reebok, right?
Everywhere.
There's other states that are like, Miami's like that, right? Or you go down there where it's...
Oh, my God.
Oh, in San Antonio, Texas. I mean, everywhere there was tons of billboards where, it's all about lawyers and suing everybody. Idaho's not that way. And I think some people are coming from states where it's like that. So
and they try to do it too.
Right.
We're going to take you to court. Why?
Yeah. Over what?
Why would you want to do that?
How about you just talk about it?
Right.
Yeah, how's that the answer?
Yeah, that's the shitheads that come up here that turn around and they serve you.
Right.
With no heads up, no conversation. It's like, what kind of person are you that you can't have a conversation with somebody else?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about first? Let's see if we can hash this out at the lowest possible level.
Right.
I mean, that's the way I always taught to handle conflict. Let's handle
100%.
Then if we got to escalate, then things have to. You got to protect yourself. I'm down. But I think that's where some of the regulation stuff comes into play. If you're coming from a community where it's like heavy, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to go talk to my lawyer. You're more accustomed to doing that.
Certainly.
Whereas here, it's more about relationships.
Here's a hot topic: guns. Dun, dun, dun.
That's pretty short.
That is a driving. Yeah, that's all I got. That's a driving factor for a lot of people, believe it or not. Is gun culture and gun rights. Because I mean, I've had quite a few people that is one of their main reasons they're leaving Washington to come here, or California or Oregon, because we have a strong gun culture here and we have a lot of freedoms in that regard, which is the way it should be.
Well, they have assigned, because it's not just about pro-gun culture. It's the ability to protect yourself and your family with minimal government intrusion. right? Because they're coming from a place where they see how bad, gosh, we have a couple that's building right now. They're going to move here in February, but they live in a very nice, affluent part of Puyallup. And now all of a sudden there's homicides down the street and drug rips and shootings, right? The people want to be able to protect themselves.
They should probably control guns more. I think that would solve that, right?
Absolutely. I'll bet that gun was registered.
It's just a matter of time. And we were having a conversation with a guy from Canada recently. I won't say names. And he was telling me about Canada. And some of the gun laws in Alberta are completely insane. And I can see Washington going this route. You have to, if you have a pistol in Canada, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm accurate here. It has to have a trigger lock, a slide lock, and be in a locked case in your house. So if someone breaks into your home, you need to undo all 3 of those locks before you can pull that pistol out to defend yourself. And if you go to court for shooting someone that came into your home, they're going to test you on how fast you can do that.
Yeah.
And if it's too fast, then they're going to say you didn't have it locked correctly.
So don't have your gun locked. Stand there and count to 10.
There you go.
And then you can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
That's so crazy. But Canada was the same. They were the same ones encouraging their citizens, if anybody breaks into your house, just be passive.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
be
no.
passive.
Take whatever you want.
Yes,
I'm sure you're not going to harm me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't have any intention of violence at all. They're struggling. I mean, Canada's struggling.
Yes. And I know Washington, I don't know if this is passed yet. Someone will correct me on here. Thank you for that. But the $25,000 of insurance per firearm that you own. And the kicker is there's no insurance company that will provide that. So
Yeah.
good luck.
Okay, so here's the loopholes.
That's
yes.
it.
So they just passed it, and insurance companies are like, "What?"
We don't
And
know
that's in Washington?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good God.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
That's funny.
Not to mention the magazine bans. I don't know if Washington does this, but California does, where you have to pay a dross fee for ammunition and then have a special card for ammunition, and there's limits on what you can buy. It's
I'm sure
completely bananas.
I'm sure they're not collating all
The
that
good
data.
thing is that all the criminals and the gangbangers, they also abide to those same laws.
Absolutely.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. And thinking about it, Canada is like the Washington of countries.
It is. Yeah.
Right? Where it's absolutely beautiful geographically,
Yeah.
but they're just blowing it
Yes.
with policies.
And there's some awesome folks in Canada. And I'm
Amazing.
sorry for you guys if you cannot get out.
Yeah, it sucks.
I don't know what.
Oh, there's a ton of great people up there, man.
the culture of
Everywhere
Canada
there
is awesome. Like fun-loving, hard-working. Like Canadians are a lot of fun to like hang out with, and it's a cool but it's just been wrecked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been wrecked by
I would
policy.
drink beers with.
And that's the thing. You said Canadians are fun. The majority of them are.
Right.
It's once again, it's a minority. That
Very
is just
small vocal minority. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So, and it's making people that are on the opposite side of the spectrum become way more vocal because they found that if you kick and scream, that's how you get it.
Yep, squeaky wheel. I am a big fan of what Washington's doing, and here's why. Not just because it means cool people move to Idaho, and you've heard me say we're competing for good, productive members of society, but each state to me is like its own individual business. Like you get to dictate how you're going to conduct business, and our customers are our productive citizens, and they're going to dictate whether or not your product, and in this case, their freedoms and liberties and policies and politics are favorable for the consumer base.
We're freaking lucky here because Idaho's getting all the best people, in my opinion.
Everybody that we meet.
Yeah.
Yep. They're awesome. And they come here and they've been
It's
super
so
productive.
cool.
And all they want is, they want minimal government intrusion and freedom.
I would say the people that call us, I honestly, 95% of them, we could put together a utopia. Just phenomenal
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That's what we love. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like, this is a filtering device for people that we want to participate in life with, to be able to communicate with.
Our
and
team's lucky, bro. Like,
it's
truly,
amazing.
Our team's
It's
lucky.
the best thing.
No, and I think those people that come over, it's funny and it might get deep for some listening, but I think a lot of them come here and they say, you know what? I just want my piece of land and I want to be left alone. A lot of them say that. I want minimal government
I
intrusion.
hear that all the time.
They don't mean that.
They don't know.
They honestly, most of them don't. They just get sick of having to conceal and hide their beliefs and values because they're living in a place where they get shunned and suppressed and pushed down for believing the way that they do. And it sucks. And then they come up here, they're like, wait a minute, I can wear my retired cop shirt. It's like, yeah, bro.
And when I say you don't know, I'm not insulting you. I'm saying you just don't realize how free it is up here and that you can be yourself. It's every cop that calls us it says that exact thing. I want 5 or 10 acres in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to see another soul in my life. I'm like, well, hold on. Like, you like us, right? Well, everybody pretty much up here is just like us, and
We're not that cool and unique. There's a lot of us.
Well, it's true. It's true. Like we are, an example of what the community
Yeah,
up here
we fit
is.
in.
Yes, you would fit in quite well, and you'll actually enjoy your neighbors, and you'll want to hang out with people and go to the coffee shop.
All right, let's go to number 3.
Bring it.
Housing and land. So Idaho, funny enough, and I bet you this is one of the things going back to taxes, we have so much public land, but we have a lot of undeveloped land. I mean, you start getting, especially in between Sandpoint and, Coeur d'Alene, and then outside of the cities, we have a lot of land that can be developed. Now, I'm not calling for that land to be developed. I don't necessarily think that's the best thing. It has to be strategic, but we have cheaper house prices than a lot of places in the nation. Certainly when you get down to Coeur d'Alene, you can find some you want to buy a $10 million home, they're here.
I got you.
But at the same time, when you compare it to places like Seattle, San Francisco, LA, our prices, people are able to sell there and come here and buy cash because there's so much less. Obviously taxes as well and those types of things. And you get a little more space. We're not necessarily, certainly we have the tracks that are starting to come up. You do have some major developers that are nationwide that are building very tight lots. You're less than a quarter acre. But for the most part, this is one of those places that I think a lot of people come to because you can get land still. You can get a lot of space in between you and a neighbor.
And all 3 of us have land now, by the way. I should
I
point
know.
that out.
Yeah,
There
we
is
do.
no better feeling. I didn't realize this until recently in my life, but like having a chunk of land that you can call yours and
Right.
Yeah.
do whatever the hell you want on it. Shoot guns. Yeah, you can shoot guns on your own property here. You can hunt on your own property here.
You can walk out your back porch buck naked and pee off your balcony.
I do it all
Done
the
it.
time.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's freedom right there. I'm pretty sure it's
the
like an
American dream, bro.
Idaho rite of passage that you can shoot a deer in your underwear off your own porch. Like I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that is like a patch that you're supposed to get living in North Idaho.
I specifically angled a porch on my new house so that I can do that and shoot down into the field. That's
But
a real thing.
It's freaking eye-opening talking to people that have acreage elsewhere and seeing how policies of that state have impacted their livability
Yes.
there.
Right.
And that sucks because I agree with you. It had to be the best day ever when they get all their acreage in there, somewhere where they've lived for
Yeah.
decades. They save up and then they go get that, and all of a sudden the policies change. That's why we fight the fight here.
They're moving the goalpost, man.
Oh man! And then all of a sudden you've got like homeless encampments right outside, and you
Yeah, you can't do that to people.
sucks.
Yeah. Or you
And
got
there's
10
no
acres
freedom.
and you can't shoot your guns on it. It's like,
Right.
what the hell?
Can't do any of those
Yep.
things.
Crazy.
So, no, there are still lots out here. Oh, lifestyle and community, lower density. We just talked about that. We have the highest percentage in the country of publicly available space. There's a lot of talk about that because they're talking about selling some of that off. But
Idaho's 60% public land.
Right.
60.
I had that conversation with somebody today because he's moving from acreage and they're talking about moving into town. And he's struggling with that a little bit. I said, here's the cool thing about Idaho, man. Get the toys that take you to those places.
Yes.
There's publicly available land because that way you don't have to take care of 5 to 10 acres, which is freaking work. For those out there that think they want like 10 acres and a homestead and still to live, man, it's work. Just be prepared for what that actually looks like. It's nice out here when you have a side-by-side, or you get the one that you got that does like 130 miles an hour, whatever the hell it does.
awesome.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But you can get the state land where you can kind of go enjoy all of that same freedom without having to, take care of the 10 acres.
Right.
So
And you can drive your side-by-side, four-wheeler, dirt bike, whatever, on the public roadways
They're legal
to
here.
get to that land.
Insured, registered.
Yep.
You're good.
And it's like an ORV
License, yeah.
registration, which is super cheap.
It is. It's cheap, but you just have to have it insured. You have to have it registered and titled, and you're good.
Do you need like turn signals, brake lights?
Yes.
Is that the minimum?
Brake lights, turn signals.
I don't think you need turn signals in Idaho.
'cause
They
you can-
need them
Oh,
in
you don't need
Washington.
turn signals,
Yeah,
you're
you
right.
don't need
You're
turn
right.
signals.
You can't hand signal?
You can.
That's
Yeah.
legal
You
in
can hand
California.
signal. Yep.
Okay.
But they are legal on Idaho roads. I joke all the time, depending on where they're moving from. I was like, UTVs are North Idaho golf carts. Like in other communities where you see golf carts, here it's UTVs. Like people take them, they'll take them to the store in the middle of January.
Yeah.
They just have the enclosed
Which
cabin.
is the coolest shit ever.
Yes.
Mine is not enclosed, but I'll still take it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, the lifestyle up here is completely different, and I think that is a draw for a lot of people. I mean, look at 2020, 2021 with everything going on there. Where did everybody go to get relief on a daily basis? They left Washington, came over here.
Yeah.
So they could go to restaurants. So they could go, to Silverwood. They could go do things. They
To
could
the woods.
live
Yeah.
life because
Yeah.
everything was shut down, right?
Right.
There's a lifestyle over here that tries to protect people's freedoms. They want you to be your person. And if you're nervous about things, you can always retreat back to your property and your place.
Right.
So that lifestyle continues over here.
Touching on some of the outdoor things that we have, there's 5 ski resorts within an hour and a half of Coeur d'Alene, which is bananas. And then we have, I don't even know, hundreds of lakes. Yeah. There's 2 right over the border in Washington.
Mount
Okay.
Spokane, Schweitzer, Lookout, 49 degrees north, Silver Mountain.
Silver, and
That's one I know.
Lookout,
49
Yeah.
degrees. Okay.
Yeah, that's one I always forget about too. I've never been there.
What's the one just over into Montana? That one's huge too.
Not Lookout.
No,
There's another one past that.
Lookout's this side. Anyways, doesn't matter, but
So,
it's big.
geez, excuse me. We're all coughing.
Yep.
And so many lakes you can do. I mean, you have to get the boating experience when you're out here, or at least a kayak if you can't swim.
Look, this is one of those areas in the country. If you notice, 90% of the world lives near the ocean. They live near water. This is one of the few places inland in the United States that we have so much water.
Tons.
Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. If you want the ocean experience, go out to Ponderay when it's like ripping and windy.
Oh,
or you're
dude.
going to get some sea state out
White
there.
calves, everything.
I always explain, like, one of those places when we give them the map, say places to check out to get a feel for what North Idaho is all about. Man, go check out Farragut and Bayview. One of the most unique places in the country, in my opinion. I've lived a lot of different places. Those jetting granite faces right into the lake, you realize why it's 1,800 feet deep and there's a freaking Navy submarine testing base there.
That's real.
Yeah, and it's massive. I mean, you could spend 4 days on that lake and probably not get everywhere.
So there's a guy that circumnavigated that lake on a paddleboard, and I hate paddleboarding, but I'm trying to get him. I'm going to get him on the podcast because that's pretty
That
freaking
is
epic.
crazy.
That's like,
I want to know how long it took him.
it was days, obviously.
oh, it's a
days.
week, easy.
Yeah,
And-
and then
and
just
there-
camped wherever he ended up.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
I know.
That sounds like a John.
amazing.
Did John do that?
No, it's our friend Stu. It's one of his buddies.
Oh, really?
I saw him this morning.
Yeah, so we'll get him on the podcast and we'll talk about that because that's pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, and we also have that. The cool thing I love about Coeur d'Alene area, even though it's not that small, a lot of people think it's really small. We have all of the amenities here, even at Costco. Is that it maintains that small town feel, right? You go down to the coffee shop, any
important.
coffee shop in downtown, don't go to Starbucks, and you'll see that you'll know people. You'll be like, oh, that's freaking so and so. You go to the grocery store,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, go see my buddy Warren down at Pilgrims, whatever. Like,
What happened at Oktoberfest? We all go down to Oktoberfest and we're hanging out and we're meeting some folks that were in town. And everywhere you turn around, oh, hey, what's up? Like, you just,
That's cool.
It's still very much a collection. And I think people are, I'm fighting to retain that.
yes.
And it's funny that you have like Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Hayden, Dalton Gardens, Rathdrum, Athol, but each one's kind of its own little individual community. Like they all
Yeah.
get along.
There's a little tug, and I think that there needs to be more focus on locals,
Yeah.
right? Like there needs to be more benefits for locals, even especially at local places, right? Downtown parking, things like
Yes,
that.
I agree.
Because we will quickly get away. You can become a resort town to where nobody feels like they own the town,
Right.
that they're part of the town. It just becomes just a playground, and you don't want that. We already have enough of it. We can start shifting gears and saying, well, how do we help locals? And that's one of the reasons why we do local business.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
huge, right?
I agree with you, man. And we're already starting to see some of that. How many locals go downtown over the weekend?
Right.
Not a lot. How many people launch their boat on the weekends? There's several days I'm like, I'm not going to Coeur d'Alene on a Saturday, dude. Like, it's one of the hottest days of the year. You know, it gets pretty crazy just because it gets,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to say infiltrated because that's the wrong word, but it just gets so busy and so over. Yeah. But I'd rather go on a Tuesday, right? Where you kind of got a
Yeah.
little bit of that lake to yourself. So I agree with you. I think local focus would be great.
Speaking of these local areas, so if you're coming from out of town to visit, one, you should definitely get in touch with us because we can point you in the right direction. But if you guys shoot us an email, we will send you the link to our tour of North Idaho. We put together a really cool website as links for all the cities up here, and you can click on it and it will give you our personal choices of restaurants or landmarks to go check out that will get you off the beaten path so you can kind of get a taste of it. Because if you're just driving around up here, it is very hard to figure out, you know, where am I? I'm on a freeway. This looks like shit. You won't know until you get off the road and, you know, maybe head down to Independence Point or wherever we send you. So shoot us an email, info@nidexperience.com, and we will send you the link to that.
It'd be cool if we had a map together.
It's coming.
No.
A paper. Eric's old
Physical
school.
map.
Yeah.
Eric's
physical.
old school.
Yeah. No, I love having like the old road atlas. That's kind of my thing.
need to
The
carry
Thomas
pictures.
Guide. The Thomas Guide.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about out there.
Yeah.
All the cops just went like,
Well,
"Oh,
it helps keep the bearing of where you are,
Yeah.
and then you actually see a physical layout. Yeah, so what we're talking about is proximity to Spokane and hybrid arrangements. I don't know what the hell hybrid arrangements mean, but I'm going to give you my best guess, okay? So when we talk about our infrastructure here, one of the biggest, I think it's the biggest employer here is Hoopy Health.
Yep.
I mean, that
Yeah.
is a very budding medical center. They have a great cardiology department. I learned that firsthand, but they were great. And then you have Northwest Specialty Hospital that is really grown over in Post Falls.
They do a solid colonoscopy over there, by the way.
Yeah, you had rave.
10 out of 10. Will recommend.
Super.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eye contact. Anyways, all right. So even outside of that, when you go over into Spokane, you have multi-care systems, you have Sacred Heart, you have Deke, you have a Shriners Children's Hospital. I mean, there's a lot over there. So when you talk about that proximity, it's kind of nice. You also have the Spokane Arena. So when they do big major concerts over there, you're 30 minutes away. 40 minutes away.
Gonzaga, you got the Chiefs, you got the Indians, you got all sorts of stuff over there.
So
Gonzaga. Thank you for pronouncing that correctly. It's not Gonzaga.
It's
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
That's right.
So that's a huge benefit. You can move to Idaho and then still have all of that stuff. I mean, it's like 30 minutes away. It's not a big deal at all. You have access to all of that. And the number one thing,
Spokane International Airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've got a killer airport that's like 45 minutes from Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, it's 35 minutes from the state line. I mean, from my house, it's like 42 minutes.
I made it
away.
in 38 from my previous house.
Okay.
Is that too?
Not
Is that
racing.
too? No, I wasn't racing.
That's
I'm just wondering.
fast.
Yes, you're breaking.
You were
the law.
breaking the law,
38.
sir.
I wasn't.
Yeah, but the other big one that we don't talk about a lot is people moving up here with school-age kids. There's a ton of sports that cross both. I mean, Coeur d'Alene teams, Kootenai County teams play Spokane teams. The Greater Spokane League for like football, basketball, baseball is really pretty big. And then Coeur d'Alene, North Idaho is growing. There's some stud programs and teams, but they cross over a lot. So if you're into AAU basketball, if your kids are into that, they have the kennel that's right outside of Gonzaga and a huge development program there. You just get a lot of those plugs. They have some
What's
really
the big basketball tournament over in Spokane?
Hoop
Fest.
Fest.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
the 3-on-3 basketball. It's a blast. Hoop Fest is like street ball in downtown Spokane. They got to clean all the shit off the sidewalk and run all the bums out. But then for that 2 or 3 days, it's actually really, really nice and looks clean like Spokane used to. Look, I grew up there. I'm going to talk a lot of trash, okay? It frustrates me every time I go there. But that's a really cool tournament. So big basketball culture there. And, you know, kids play. There's lacrosse teams. There's rugby teams. I mean, it's kind of nice. You know, you can kind of bounce back and forth.
All right. This next topic is really just for you. I had originally, I wrote the topic and I said, Eric, do your thing.
Yeah.
Because this is what you absolutely love to talk about, which is crime trends and drugs.
Man.
Does Washington have a crime and drug problem?
Oh, dude. It's, to me, you know where I'm going to go with this, man. I think it's the crux of the majority of their problem. I mean, there's pervasive illicit drug use is the number one contributing factor to property crimes. And what affects citizens the most? It's property crime. Nobody wants to walk out and see a busted window with a car. That's the one that affects typical citizens. But those things have a way of transitioning from property crimes to persons crimes, right? All they have to do is run into them. And I think it's equal parts. A lot of it's the state's policies, but it's also individuals' freedoms. When you have states that are operating like Canada does and they're telling people not to protect themselves, people feel as though... Go ahead.
So, no, I think you're nailing it. I just want to highlight it is the fact that the world has a drug problem.
Yeah.
Right? Idaho has a drug problem. Washington has a drug problem. It's how you deal with that drug problem, and you're touching on it right now.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
we have meth over here. We have people that I mean, we were both cops up here. Like
Yep.
arrest people with heroin, you arrest people with oxys, everything else.
Fentanyl, yep.
It's not like it doesn't cross the border, but it's how you deal with it, which is what you're kind of touching on right now.
It's about accountability, man. Like most people, because that old thing that gets spun around a lot, and these dudes came up from Portland and they coined the phrase, go to Coeur d'Alene on vacation, leave on probation, right? Because there's some accountability here, and they're coming from states where there absolutely isn't any. And I'll go back and provide some numbers. This is the last one I presented to city council, so these might be a little bit dated, but this was in March of this year, where the national average for a fentanyl counterfeit opiate overdose death, it's the leading cause of death in adults in our country 18 to 45 is fentanyl overdose. So the average number is 1 in 3,350. That's the national average for an overdose death. In Kootenai County, it was roughly 1 in 6,500. So we're less than half. That's pretty dang good. Coeur d'Alene, it was 1 in 9,600. And then you take Spokane, 1 in 2,250. So they're nearly double the national average of illicit opiate death and overdose. Can't even find it in King County.
Yeah, I wonder what King County
Yeah.
is.
Oh my God.
Boy.
Just Seattle, Tacoma. I don't know. And they probably don't even track it anymore.
It's 100%.
That's the other thing that drives me nuts. When we're talking about statistics, I know Seattle cooks books. I know that because when I broke down all the trends previously when we talked about crime rate, their vehicular theft went up like, God, I wish I had it in front of me. It was like something astronomical, like 450%. Their felony theft went up like 60%, and then their petty theft went down like 40%. It's like, no. You just decriminalized it.
Yep.
Don't pretend like that didn't go down. You've just changed the score to make sure that it didn't. So that you could go and be like, theft is down.
Well, that's the thing. When you get caught with, I mean, even marijuana over here is criminalized, right? You get caught with any amount of those items, and you can go to jail for it.
Right.
Over in Washington, you used to. Now you can get caught with it, and if you have less than the amount, then it's a ticket.
right.
You don't get criminalized. It doesn't go in those statistics,
Which
right?
then leads to, and this is no fault of the cops, right? It leads to them just, it's like, why bother?
It's apathy, man.
Why bother?
Well, when they made it non-criminal, are you going to risk your life to pull the dope out of that person's pocket? Even if you do get an arrestable offense, the chances of them actually doing more time than the time it takes you to complete the police report is freaking minimal.
Yep.
So how much risk are you going to take?
Yeah.
And a lot of their cops live over here, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's true.
No.
So I did a little bit of research, very little to be honest. But Idaho came up as the 4th safest state in the country.
Here we go again.
Oddly enough, New Jersey came in as number 1, which I don't really believe. I spent a lot of time in Jersey as a kid.
I think it's New Hampshire. It's got to be New Hampshire, dude.
Yeah. But I know. But still, I think we're in that 4 or 5 range legitimately, Idaho,
Right.
as far as safest, which who cares what number 1 is, right? We'll get there. That's pretty damn impressive.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't always that way, right? I mean, you guys both worked for Coeur d'Alene PD. In the 90s, Coeur d'Alene was known as like the meth city, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty violent downtown too. I mean, people still joke about it, saying the old school downtown was you could just duke it out in the middle of the street. It was like old-timey fisticuffs.
But that's
down.
not violence.
Good old days.
No.
I'm not even going to allow that to be called violence.
It's just hashing it out.
That's two people that are
Mutual
dealing
combat.
with their issues
Right.
as opposed to calling somebody else to deal with. I'm fine with that.
Better
I wonder
than
if
shooting
it.
out.
I wonder if it took into account what's happened recently, because we've done a previous podcast before the Canfield incident, and it was, Idaho's ranked 49th out of 50. But we had a few just crazy out of left field.
Yeah.
So
which can happen. But we're down. I mean, you say this number a lot. We're down.
Yeah.
What are we down? Part 1 crimes.
70% part 1 crimes.
What is a part 1 crime?
Part 1 crime is like serious crimes, like heinous ag assault, homicide, robbery, rape, stuff
Persons
like that.
crimes,
Yeah,
mostly.
violent persons.
That's
crimes.
impressive. So even with the population increase, which has been a lot in the last 5 years, we are down crime rate. That's
And
fantastic.
I remember Chief even saying, and it's not that he doesn't care about, the part 2 crimes, but his big thing when we were there, we're like, look, if we go up in a little bit of theft, that's not what I'm concerned with.
Right.
What I'm concerned with is these high level crimes that are going to make people fearful. If you get your bike stolen, that sucks, right? But that's not the focus. PD's not going to go around and just make sure nobody gets their bike stolen. They want to make sure people aren't getting hurt, people aren't dying, people aren't being fed drugs. That's what they want to focus on. Because, like you said, you get rid of that, the other crimes typically go with it.
Yeah, but they've absolutely subscribed to the broken windows theory, because if somebody gets their bike stolen and you solve that, or we used to have what they call it, the stupid vehicle burglaries, the teenagers, car hopping, which is
a cute
burglary.
30 burglaries
Yes.
in a morning.
Yes, but
Yes.
when you actually catch them and hold them accountable and recover some of that property, that's ripples, man. People are out there like, don't mess around in North Idaho. They don't have enough real crime to investigate, so they're going to catch you for this. That
100%.
keeps those real crimes from happening. And a lot of that you can attribute a ton to our law enforcement here and our entire philosophy, but also a crap load to our citizens, because they back us up.
Right.
It's funny when you get like somebody says, we post a story on North Idaho News and one person's like, oh, the cops over there, this, and how fast they get shouted down.
Yeah.
Well, shut up and leave. Like it's hilarious how many citizens back up.
I
the cops here.
personally know a detective over at county, Jeff. What's up, dude? He's a retired cop from California, and he investigated a theft of a Red Bull and caught the person, and they were prosecuted. And it's like, at face value, you're like, oh, that's dumb, but broken window theory, right?
Yeah, but I'm okay, because
That's accountability.
Then what's the sentencing look like? All right, if this is a kid, here we go. We're just going to get you on the right path, and he's got some teeth. He's got some skin in.
But when you get buy-in from businesses and people too, what happens at Winco when you steal lipstick?
we get a call.
You get tackled.
Yeah.
You get put in handcuffs, brought back inside. We get called. They trespass you for 100 years. They fine you $1,000.
Yep.
They charge you for the thing, and they ask for you to go to jail.
Right.
So what happens in Washington when you do that? They give you a bag with it?
Dude, cops don't even show up.
No.
You're gonna get crime checked into oblivion, which is absolutely something that we should talk
They
about.
give you a bag. I have to pay for a bag when I go over there and buy
Yeah,
something.
that's true.
They probably give it
8
to you.
cents. I'm like, absolutely not. I'll carry
probably
all
give
this
it to
out
you.
on my
That's
own.
because you're a paying citizen, dude.
Yeah. When I go in there, I could have 30 items. They're like, you want a bag? I'm like, how much? Like 8 cents. Absolutely not. I'll carry all this shit. In fact, can I have help?
Yeah.
Where's Washington rank on the safety scale? We had this number previously. I have it
Yeah.
as the 8th most dangerous state. It's kind of backwards because I think we had it at like 47, 45.
No. So when you rank 1 being the worst, this will surprise some people.
So
When you
one's
go
the
by-
worst.
Yeah, and these were all this was violent crime statistics. So I don't know how they rank some of this. They probably take into account a whole lot of other crimes. When you look at violent crime statistics, the least safe for the most violent crime, number 1 was New Mexico.
Yep.
New Mexico has a pretty small population. Albuquerque's terrible. And they don't have a lot of cops and they don't pay them a lot. And it's a border state and there's a lot of cartel activity there. So you can kind of see that. Number 2 is Colorado.
That's surprising.
Yeah, and then number 3 is Washington State.
There we
So everybody thinks Illinois, California, New York. California was like number 8, I think. New York was like right around there, like 9 or something. Illinois was like number 11. So Cook County's atrocious. Who knows how much of that is jumbling with numbers. But I'm always fascinated because you think, what's the excuse for Washington and Colorado? It's not a border. They're not border states.
Right.
It's their freaking policies.
Yep.
Because both of them were some of the earliest ones to join. I'm not going to make this about, I'm anti-marijuana, blah, blah, blah.
They legalized it before anybody else.
Right. So what sort of activity did that attract? It's not the substance itself or the fact I used to say it on patrol all the time. Probably give me in trouble. Look, dude, if you're smoking weed in your garage, working on your car, eating Funyuns, I really don't care. You know what I mean? Like it's not what I'm after. I'm looking for, but the activity that tended, or that group of people that attracted, that were into a lot of other stuff. When people ask me about weed, do I think weed's a gateway? Not necessarily, but I found weed a ton along with the other illicit drugs. Weed in and of itself, there's plenty of people that just smoke weed, right? I'm not making it that way, but I think it did attract a whole contingent of people. And what went along with it was the decriminalization of illicit drug use in general. So then you had theft, and then up went violent crime and all sorts of other stuff that went with it. There's no excuse that Washington and Colorado should be that high.
Right.
Especially when Washington's right next to Idaho, very similar geographically, and we're number 49. Policies matter.
Take note. Well, in that regard, Washington's not sounding real good. So I think I'm understanding why we're getting a huge migration of people from there. And I'm sorry if you've been there a long time. I absolutely am. Like, that sucks to have to leave your
grew
home
up there,
state.
man.
Yep. And you know, you'll hear the argument, I don't know, some trolls make this online that, just go fix your own state. Well, imagine, and I saw this in California, if you live in a rural place in Washington, there's plenty of places out there, there's amazing people that live there, and you are being outvoted by these large metropolitan areas full of the very vocal minority, and I'm not saying minorities, I'm saying minority. These people kicking and screaming and instilling these stupid policies, and they're outvoting you, and now you have no say in how you live your life. How do you fix that?
You can't. You're not the majority anymore.
You can't. It's a generational problem.
In terms of voting, you're not the majority anymore.
And awesome states like Idaho aren't helping by going, come on over.
Yeah.
Right? For the ones that believe in
ones.
minimal government intrusion and individual freedom. So now they're losing more because there's actually something pulling them towards something that's a little bit more like-minded.
And they're being left with the not best.
But I will say, and I caution people that move over here from Washington, California, Oregon, any other state, you have to be cognizant of how you interact, how you perceive regulations, laws, how you vote, all those things, right? You come from a place where it's typical, like we said, you immediately go to the government, you immediately call for help, you immediately sue somebody. If you're going to move to a place that you love, you have to start looking at how that lifestyle is. You have to absorb that lifestyle if you want it to stay the way that it is because it attracted you that way. You have to put other things aside because there's still tendencies, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's come from somewhere where they drive like an asshole because that's the only way you can get to work. Slow down. You'll get there up here. Slow down. Start to assimilate because it's important that we remember that because things can change really quick.
You're almost saying that if you're going to move somewhere, you should assimilate to their customs and courtesies.
Weird.
I feel like that could be a national discussion. But it absolutely is because each state is different. It's one of the things that makes our country amazing and great. We are not a democracy. We're a freaking republic. And each state has the right to govern themselves independently with federal oversight, but they can have their own rules and regulations. Mm-hmm. And those states are businesses. That's just the way I'm going to look at it. And we're competing for the most valuable resource, which is our citizens. And like I said, that's why I just love it. Let it play out. I mean, I thought I knew how it was going to go in Minneapolis when they defunded the police, but I was like, oh, hell, what do I know? Maybe they'll be totally decent, not victimized like the good citizens that are. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll be a perfect utopia and everybody will get along and open air drug use everywhere and it'll be great. Clean needles, right? But No, it turned out to be a total incomplete shit show. So that's great for the rest of the states.
Absolutely.
You should be able to use them as an example.
Yes. And the beautiful thing is there are a ton of politicians at the state level here in the local levels that are actively trying to increase the sovereignty of Idaho. Yeah. And that's what I love, right? We're pushing in the right direction where a lot of these other states are still doubling down on the stupid policies that they have going.
That's the next step though, right?
Yeah.
If Idaho's operating in the black and they're one of the states that's operating in the black, should we have to pay for states that are operating in the red? Right? No, that's your own business decision. Do successful businesses have to bail out failing ones?
And California can't have our water either.
Right.
So stay away.
But that's what I mean. So that's where individual state sovereignty is going to be our next big fight.
Yeah.
And I think with at least the current administration, there's not going to be a whole bunch of bailouts.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a bunch of state bailouts. How about you fix your own freaking budget?
Yeah.
That's the next big fight.
On that note,
Love it.
Sounds like Idaho's a pretty good move.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys have a lot of questions, which you may have more questions, or you want to rant to someone, Dave's available. I'll give you his email address.
Yeah.
Our real estate team, we have an entire team of people just like the three of us, all share the same background of public safety or veterans. So if you guys feel like our values align and you're thinking about making the move over here, don't use Zillow. Call us.
Yeah. And
Don't call the listing agent. Unless we are a listing agent. Call us.
civil discourse is okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if you disagree with us. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
That is totally okay. And I welcome the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed. This was supposed to be a short video, and here we are 50 minutes later.
Idaho's the greatest state in the country. Prove me wrong.